Low wing setting, but there is still differences between the cars. Low downforce, yes, but how low? If you've set the car up for dry in conditions, you have even less wing than the car that's set for a slightly wetter setting. And well, if you've got the dry settings, you'll be fast on the straight, but you might struggle around the corners as Maldonado just about gets stopped for turn one.
Yeah, quite. It was less than half a car length behind Grosjean going through the chicane there. Maldonado on the charge, Giorgio Pantano, fastest man on the track now, and David Valsecchi, the leader, extending his lead to 6.4 seconds as Lucas Di Grassi now sets a fast lap, but that won't count for a point because he's out of the top 10. Bit of a shame for Lucas Di Grassi there. One extra point, of course, would take him level with Bruno Senna at the runners-up position in the championship at the moment, but you don't get a point for a fastest lap if you're outside of the top 10, and he's down in 13th place.
It's Maldonado that's the man on the move. Romain Grosjean's early pace seems to have just dipped away. Maybe he pushed a bit too hard on his wet weather tyres in these conditions. The track is wet and slippery, but there's not quite enough moisture, not quite enough lying water to cool the tyres down, so they overheat and you start losing grip very quickly. A few laps ago he was pushing very hard to catch Roldan Rodriguez and did so in fact, but I think now it's Maldonado that's catching him. Lucas Di Grassi braking from miles behind, taking Iaconelli, and this time does get the car stopped for the corner. No dramas this time at the second chicane.
No dramas, just admiration. Nice one as two Brazilians go through, changing places. Di Grassi ahead of Iaconelli and up into 12th place. So still a long way out of the points at the moment. And Bruno Senna, by the way, still gaining on Sebastian Buemi. The gap down to 6/10. The gap between Grosjean and Maldonado, time-wise, 4/10 of a second. And it's round about 4 car lengths, isn't it, going down the main straight. Now, how late can Maldonado break into the chicane here? Is he going to try around the outside? And you kind of guessed that he was going to go straight on there and just get it all wrong. He'll come out possibly ahead of Romain Grosjean, or will he just let the ART slip past? He does, and he'll have to try that all over again. Ambitious, to say the least.
Well, that was always going to happen. The moment he started to get over to the left-hand side of the road on the way into turn one, he got onto the normal dry racing line where the rubber has been laid down. It's very, very slippery. There's a huge difference in the grip you've got available to you, and he was never going to stop, and well, he knows that now.
Doesn't he just? Now there's Buemi stuck behind D'Ambrosio, and there's Bruno Senna coming over clouting actually the sleeping policeman, let alone the curb, attacking that chicane. A bit too aggressive there and a bit too far onto the inside. But he might just feel, even though there's only 4 laps to go, has Bruno Senna still got a chance of moving up into the points here this Sunday morning at Monza? We'll keep an eye out as D'Ambrosio accelerating away and opening up the distance between himself and Buemi in the Arden. Buemi, who next week will be testing for Toro Rosso, of course, down at Jerez, along with Takuma Sato. Be an interesting test to see how those two compare. Sato with Formula One experience, Buemi not quite as much. Are Toro Rosso looking at either of those two drivers for next season? This afternoon they might just be looking a little more closely at the race. Sebastian Vettel starting on pole in Formula One, of course. Catch all the action on ITV as through goes Bruno Senna. And David Valsecchi, just to let you know, out in front you can see how much of the gap he's opening up at the top now. 7.2 seconds back to Rodriguez, with Grosjean running ahead of Maldonado and extending his advantage. Pantano sat on his own, running in 5th place, and then the trio battling for 6th, 7th and 8th. D'Ambrosio, Buemi and Senna. 3 laps to go then to the end of this GP2 season. And one little mistake from here could see you heading to the awards night with a smile on your face, or something of a frown and nothing to celebrate.
Well, again, these guys really are absolutely driving on a knife edge at all times. And well, we're back with Parent and the Iaconelli, and it's Iaconelli in the red car running wide out of the second Lesmo onto the curb, and this time Parent gets through. He'll be pleased about that. Don't forget, these two had a fairly close brush together down there in the first chicane a few laps ago, so Parent will be quite pleased to finally get past that red car and get on. And well, he's got Lucas Di Grassi in front of him, but it's Di Grassi that seems to have the pace at the moment.
Will be a popular win, won't it? David Valsecchi winning in front of his Italian fans. and winning for the first time in GP2 if he can manage to stay out of the lead. Now back with Bruno Senna down towards the Ascari chicane, under braking, closing up on the man in front of him, Sebastian Buemi. There's just no chance under braking, just can't leave it late enough as Bruno Senna goes wide coming out of the Ascari chicane. And the wider you go, the more unstable your car is when you put the throttle down. It seems to me the car's weaving around a bit here, Chris, and the track does start to dry out to try and pick up some moisture in those wet weather tyres.
Well, the tyres will be getting extremely hot. These are proper treaded wet weather tyres, so the tread blocks will be wobbling around as they get hot, the rubber gets softer. It's water you need on the racetrack to cool them down and keep them firm and stable, but these cars will be becoming increasingly twitchy, increasingly tricky and increasingly unpredictable to drive. Braking, not too bad, but getting on the power, the mid-corner, the feeling of the car in high-speed corners, the stability will just not be anywhere near what the cars are like in the dry, and it's very, very easy to make a mistake in these conditions. 2 laps remain and these guys are pushing harder than ever before. Buemi will be very keen to try and get that last point, the point that D'Ambrosio is sitting on at the moment. And well, D'Ambrosio will be keen not to throw it away on the last lap like he did last weekend.
I was going to say, for a second Sunday in a row, although last Sunday was a tad more costly for him, as it was the lead in his home race in Belgium that Pastor Maldonado took away from him in what has to be said spectacular style and a great overtaking move. Very impressive in the latter part of this season for me, Pastor Maldonado. As through down to the Ascari chicane then come this trio, and Bruno Senna's too far back once again to leave his braking late and try and get past Sebastian Buemi. It's a difficult track to pass on, is Monza, when it gets dry, and probably just not wet enough at the moment for too much overtaking. Maldonado still closing in on Grosjean. Pantano still riding all on his own. And then the Belgian, followed by Buemi, followed by Senna, but they're all following that man who's now started his last lap. David Valsecchi has an 8-second advantage. He can take it very slowly indeed. How must he be feeling in front of his home fans now, Chris, thinking that a GP2 win for the first time in his career is now on its way?
Well, you'd be feeling nervous, that's what you'd be feeling. You've got a few more corners to slide your way through. He has got a big advantage, 8 seconds, so if I was him, I'd be really cruising this lap, making sure you're braking nowhere near the limit, making sure you're carrying a little less speed into the high-speed corners and making sure you're just a little bit more careful getting on the power. You can lose a couple of seconds in this lap, no problem at all. You've just got to get that car to the line, see that checkered flag, and well, I'm sure that's what he's going to do.
Still behind him, Rodriguez, Grosjean and Maldonado can't afford to take it too easy. Giorgio Pantano lurking there as well. I would imagine smiling and grinning in the car and maybe chatting away on the radio as well. It's been a very easy Sunday for him, starting 10th on his way to finishing 5th. Rodriguez got the best of the start and moved up from 3rd place to pit Valsecchi going into the first corner, but since Valsecchi retook the lead in his Durango, he has never been headed and never ever looked like losing it. It's been a very mature drive from him this morning. Better conditions than it was yesterday. The dark clouds are getting a slight shade of light grey now, but it's the colours of black and white that David Valsecchi will be looking for as he comes out of the Parabolica, and the spray will be champagne soon, but for now it's water off the tyres as Valsecchi crosses the line to win for the first time in GP2. Rodriguez, fantastic race for him as well, comes home second, holds up Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado, and then Giorgio Pantano. D'Ambrosio will finish 6th, Buemi 7th, Senna 8th, and Bruno Senna will hang on to runners-up spot in the GP2 Championship table because De Grassi didn't score points and Grosjean just didn't score enough. Well done today though to David Valsecchi. He'll celebrate along with his fellow countryman Pantano, who's the champion in 2008. Welcome back to Monza. That is Giorgio Pantano, the GP2 champion, who's stopped his racing engineering car to go and celebrate and throw his gloves into the crowd. Now, has he managed to keep the engine going here without the steering wheel in place? because he's got to try and find his way back. He has, you know. Well done.
Well,